That's Marco D'Amico. Follow him at MN D'Amico with RG Media. BetOnline.ag, proud sponsor of the show. You can support us by supporting our sponsors, where you can wager pretty much on everything. And first-time players get enriched deposits, cryptocurrency options for deposits and withdrawals as well, with the best customer service in the online gaming community and a trusted place for close to 30 years. BetOnline, BetOnline.ag, the best odds in the business. Stanley Cup futures, check them out now at BetOnline and BetOnline.ag. Breaking news as it relates to future superstar Ivan Demidov. He's going to focus more seriously on studying, not just English, but French as well. Sources confirm. Yes, reading directly from the latest from Marco D'Amico around Ivan Demidov and his plans for this summer, Marco. Let's get into what you're reporting on. Let's elaborate. What's this young man up to this summer?
He's going to be staying in La Belle Province all summer.
Hey, now.
So just a little bit of a, circle back moment, right? So when the Canadiens drafted Ivan Demidov last year, he barely hit the ice in the summer because of an ankle injury.
Okay.
So he didn't really get to train as hard as he wanted to, and that, especially his lower body, and that kind of impacted his ability to improve his skating stride, his explosivity, and whatnot. Now that he's healthy, the Canadiens, well, I don't think there was much convincing. He's such a rink rat in terms of the way that he's just obsessed with the game. But the Canadiens suggested that he stay in Montreal, soak up the culture, soak up the sun whenever we get it. It's a little bit difficult over the last couple of weeks, but thankfully there's more on the way. So soak up the culture. And I think the Canadiens are doing a good job of trying to keep their younger players in town, so that it kind of feels like they're part of the town. They did the same thing with Nick Suzuki. I'd like to see them do the same with Juraj Slafkovsky. I feel like Juraj Slafkovsky would benefit greatly from spending the entire summer in Montreal, just training, working on his skating, so that he walks into camp. And another guy that probably should do the same is Kirby Dach, especially after the comments that were made by Jeff Gorton about his readiness at camp. I feel like, guys, like, what are we doing here? This is your make or break moment. And a guy like Ivan Demidov gets it. And so last year wasn't able to train. This year has the entire summer. There's no distractions, right? Like, I'm talking to NHL prospects right now, and those guys, their schedule is insane.
Yeah.
Between now you have the combine coming up. Then after that, you've got interviews and going to meet with teams if you're on with some of the higher draft picks. Some cases, we saw last year that Gold Star had its own combine for Russian prospects. Well, that's another thing you got to do. And then there's the draft, and then there's dev camp. Right. And in his case, in Russia, preseason starts like end of July, early August.
Do we know his living situation in Montreal? Do you know anything about, like, does he live with the Bobrovs? Is he living with a teammate? Is he living,
I have no idea
in a hotel?
In terms of who he's living with. I think he was in a hotel last I checked, but they're looking at apartments now.
Okay, good. Because I'm just, I always like the idea, the infamous story of Crosby living in Mario's basement for 100 years and the Gallagher living with the Georges family for a long time. Like, I think it's just smart business. He's a 19-year-old Russian kid who's been in Canada for a few months. I don't know if I want him living in the penthouse at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel and then going about his business. You know what I mean?
The difference is he came over with his girlfriend, so he's not alone, right? No. And you come over with your girlfriend. I mean, like, I don't pretend to know their marital situation, but like they seem very serious. And so, like, the idea is he's not going to go out and party every night looking for a hookup here or there. Like, he's there. He's serious. He's got a life. He's dedicated. He's focused. I don't see it as much of a risk for that kind of a kid. And I think, we talked about this last week, where it kind of goes into the kind of personality they're drafting, right? Yeah. There are some players his age that pieced out and have already gone back home or to, tourist destinations, like going down south. I mean, he did take a small vacation. I think he's earned it, but going to like Dubai or going to the Emirates or going to,
right. Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying that to throw water, but all I'm saying is you've seen other superstars and other young stars basically call it and go on vacation, and then they're going to start looking at, really getting into their training probably in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And so Demidov's already hitting the ground running, went on a mini vacation again, for a week, earned it. and then came back and has already been hitting the ice for about a week and a half now already. And the
Like,
plan is for him to keep doing that all summer and work on his fitness with the Canadiens development staff on the spot.
like this guy is like, he's 19 years old, and you write about here, and I'll read it quickly. It's a mature decision for a teenager who could have easily spent the offseason in a more familiar environment. Instead, Demidov is embracing the challenge of learning two new languages while immersing himself in Quebec's unique culture. That effort hasn't gone unnoticed by fans or the organization, especially in a bilingual market where communication matters just as much as production. That's Marco D'Amico at RG Media. I mean, the Canadians knew exactly who they were drafting when they drafted this kid. I mean,
Yeah.
to have this composure, this maturity, and this level of understanding, whoever
Mhm.
sold them on the message, listen, Ivan, you know, I mean, the buy-in, Marco, is it's
Yeah.
amazing. The buy-in at his age is it can we call it unique?
It's rare. It's rare. Like
It is.
like Lane Hudson, same kind of buy-in, right? Like
Yes,
it's
right.
just, we've seen in the past players kind of come in, especially high drafted players that I'm not going to say they think they know it all, but just didn't heed the instructions given to them by management. You think a guy like your Jesperi Kotkaniemi, for example, right, who
Oh,
didn't necessarily train in the ways or to the level of intensity that a winner would. And that impacted his game and his ability to get into the lineup. And
agreed.
it's really affected his development ever since, right? So there's a guy like that. But then you have a guy like, for example, Nick Suzuki, who, has put on 25 pounds of mass in the last, from his draft year to his second year in the league, right?
Yep.
He's at like 206, 207 at 5'11. Like that's a thick boy. But you have to be, and it's not from downing ice caps. He's worked for it.
Right.
It is a difficult thing to add mass when it comes to a frame like that. So a guy like Demidov, who hasn't been able to work his lower body, for a guy that skates the way he does laterally, could you imagine his explosivity in straight line skating? If he's able to increase that mass, increase his push, the first couple of steps, he's going to be able to separate himself with far bigger ease. And then watch out in the playoffs, right? Then he becomes incredibly shifty, and he can play the similar style that he does to
Right.
Kaprizov, because Kaprizov has a strong lower body. The difference is Kaprizov, by the time he got to the NHL, was already 23. So, you have a player like that that's more physically mature. Well, you got to get there in Demidov's case, and you got to get there quicker, just because you're already in the league. So, to me, it makes a ton of sense for him to be able to do that. I think the interesting part is the learning English and French part. Like, he's already done a really good job of learning English. But I know for a fact, like, I've been we spoke to him, and then we spoke to those around him, and he's very serious about that. And I don't mean like, quick Duolingo on the phone. Like he's been reading
Right.
and trying, and he already knows a little bit of French. Like everybody knows bonjour, comment ça va, but
Oh, do
just
they?
trying to like understand a
Yeah.
little bit more so he can get by and get in the city. I think that shows buy-in not only into the organization, but it shows buy-in into the overall culture of the team, and it shows a willingness to make this home, right? Like one of
Yeah.
the things that we always talked about is the Canadians don't want to sign flight risks. They don't want to draft players that are going to be in it for the money, right? And it really feels like a guy like Ivan Demidov feels like he could be here for a very, very, very long time. And I feel like if Kent Hughes has anything to say about it, he will.
Yeah. Yeah.
But these are steps that a player would take not to become a fan favorite. He already is.
Agreed.
It's a step that a player takes when they're investing in the market they're playing in. And I think that, to me, that kind
All
of
right.
show, blank check at the end of his ELC, 8-year deal, whatever
Yeah.
he wants.
Done, 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 done. Dude, I'm so fascinated by this guy. I want to know more about him. I want to kind of know, like, obviously, I'm a big food guy. I'd love to know, like, I know there's like a little Russia area off of DeCarry, kind of Queen Mary Snowden area. There's a few Russian restaurants that you drive by. I wonder if that's a place or two that he's gone to since he's been here. Like, everyone loves the comforts of home. Everybody gets homesick. I don't care how old you
Yeah.
are. The comforts of
I don't
home are the
know.
comforts of home. And how much he's
I,
enjoying the city. Like I saw I believe I did not share this with you. I have a friend who works at Walmart in LaSalle. It's a suburb of Montreal. We have a lot of out of town people that watch this channel, and Ivan Demidov was shopping in Walmart. He had his hoodie on. My buddy recognized him. He said, "Hey, Ivan." Ivan turned around and shook his hand. They spoke for a couple of minutes and took a photo of him. So like at least he's been to the Walmart in LaSalle. He's down with the Walmart. I know that much.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of off-putting for him, poor guy. But
What do you mean? What are you talking about? He's Ivan Demidov. It's a privilege to be recognized, my friend. It's not off-putting.
I know that no, it's off-putting for me. I would just be so like I would be the guy put the hoodie on and be like,
yeah.
I need to walk away.
I'm not the type. I would say if I saw Demidov in Walmart, I'd be like, oh my God, there's Demidov. And that would be the end of it for me personally.
Yeah, as a journalist to probably just go and say like, hi, how you doing? I hope everything's okay. And then just walk away.
Right.
But I think again, like he's a man of the people. I like him in terms of his humility and just being a regular dude. I don't think I think again, we're talking about all the character traits here. We haven't even gotten on the ice.
Exactly.
But I just feel like when you see that kind of commitment to the market, to the culture, that goes a long way. And I think it'll go a long way in showing how serious he is about being a Montreal Canadian, because that's basically what Nick Bobrov, Kent Hughes, Jeff Gorton, and Martin Lapointe have been going on about, is they want players that want to be here.
Yeah.
And you look at some of the guys, the more controversial picks, they all want to be here.
Yeah, I love that. I'll link the Marco D'Amico's story, RG Media, in the comments section, and we'll pin it to the top of the page so you can read it for yourself. But the buy-in for a 19-year-old who wants to be here, that didn't peace out as soon as the season ended to go back home or to go hang out in the Black Sea somewhere in some palatial estate. To me, it's two thumbs way up. We talk about red flags. This is the opposite of a red flag. Go read the latest from Marco D'Amico at RG Media. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube.com. You can follow Marco D'Amico at MN D'Amico. Like and subscribe. Marco, thanks for an outstanding week. And we're back next week with fresh content and more storylines to develop as they develop in real time. Marco, thanks as always.
Always a pleasure, guys.